Hey everybody, it's time for another review. So my last review, I reviewed the Bugera T50, and I loved the cleans. I hated the distortion. I ended up returning that amp, and instead now I exchanged it really for the Bugera Trirec Infinium. It's 100 watts. It's 3 channels. It's an all-tube amp, and there's a whole mess of tubes in there. There's 5 12AX7s in there. There's 4 6L6s, and then there's 2 5-4TU something, I can't remember, tubes for rectifier tubes, which is pretty cool. This amp has 3 different modes that are in the back that you can switch. That's where the Trirec name comes from. I'm sure you've seen this and heard it in many different videos that are online already for this amp. I personally have discovered that this amp is pretty mighty. It's got a crazy good sound. It's got really good clean sound. It's got an awesome in-between gain sound for those classic rock tones, and it's got a ridiculous metal channel. That channel 3 is awesome. So as usual, I'm going to be playing my Paul Reed Smith, which is loaded with the whole Lotta humbucker pickups, which are pretty low output pickups, but they still they get pretty good gain. So first things first, we'll hear what the clean channel sounds like, and there's a foot switch that comes with it, and I'll see if I can show it. So it's a huge 6-button foot switch to change between the channels. You can select boost, which works for all 3 channels. You can turn the reverb on and off, and you can turn the effects loop on and off with the pedal, which is pretty cool. It's a good feature set to have with this amp. So as I was saying, the triple rec, there's a setting in the back where you can set it to MOSFET, which is kind of like a solid state rectifier. You can set it to the valves as the rectifier, or you can set it to a blend of both the valves and the MOSFET rectifier. I so far have listened to the rectifier and the tubes. I haven't listened to the blend yet. Because once I went to the tubes, I was all set. But I will eventually. I've only had this amp again. I like to do my reviews quickly while the amp is still fresh, and I don't have really any time to set it, you know. I think it's a little more honest of a review because, you know, you can't tweak it and make it your own, which maybe you should, but I don't know. This just seems to suit me. So, without further ado, here is the clean sound with both the humbuckers in the middle position. On the neck position. also mention that I'm playing through the same 212 cabinets that I was playing through for my previous review. I kept the cabs, sent the head back. So the cabs are pretty awesome. And they're the Turbosound 212s from Bugera. I dig them so far. We'll see when they break in, because, you know, cabs got to break in. And it'll be a while because I'm playing low volume right now, but whatevs. So yeah, that's the clean channel on the bridge pickup. Nice and bright. That's got reverb on, of course. I'll shut the reverb off. You'll hear the difference between with it and without here. Very dry. It's really cool. Reverb back on. And so, channel 2, I'm going to switch over to here. And this one's got a really good gain stage on it. It's awesome for that classic rock kind of sound. I'm using right now, I have it set in the down position, which is the classic position. I seem to prefer that setting the most. I'll show you all three, but I prefer this one with the way I have it set right now. Really good sound for, you know, the right, very good classic rock tones. It can do a Stevie tone. This is probably not the best Stevie tone, but you know, you can get there. So you can get that really cool, slick, slippery blues tone. And that's again in the classic mode. If I switch it to the vintage, you get a little bit more gain out of the head in the vintage. As you flip the switch up, vintage you get more gain, and modern you get the most gain you can get from the channel. So in classic is the lowest gain setting. I've got the gain setting at the 5 position. So we go up to vintage. I don't know if you can hear it through the camera, but I immediately get a higher buzz because the gain has gone up. A lot more gain. Neck pickup. Really good sounding gain. I like it in vintage. Classic I prefer. I like that lower gain setting for this type of a gain setting in the middle, you know what I mean? And then we'll switch it to modern. You get the most gain from the channel with this. Lots of gain. That compared to the first setting, way less. I dig it in classic for this in-between tone. And of course my EQ right now, I got my treble around almost 6, my mid at about 5.5. My bass is somewhere around 7-ish. But they're pretty responsive. Treble, we turn that up and you can hear it bites a lot harder. Put that back. You can turn it down, you know, you lose it. I like it right about there. Mid, same thing. Turn them all the way down, get that scoop. It's very cool. The bass, you probably won't hear it. For whatever reason, bass doesn't translate to YouTube. You can hear it coming through the speakers better. You know, you get a little more oomph. But you guys won't hear it in YouTube land, so I'm not even going to bother with that. That's my preference right there. I love it right there. So that's channel 2. There's also a boost that I had mentioned earlier. This controls how much boost. So right now I have it set to about 6, and it boosts it pretty good at 6. So I don't know if you can tell, maybe you can't, I'm not sure, depending on the camera. But it's a lot louder, and you can boost it up pretty loud. So I'm going to turn it off with a note so you can hear it drop. You hear it drop back down. So that boost is pretty awesome if you have to like jump into a lead, you know, in the middle of a song and you want to cut, you can nail that boost and it'll put you over the top and you'll cut through pretty good. So channel 3, this is the gain beast channel. This is full on. And that's something I will mention that I've seen in many reviews on this amp, is when you switch between channels, if you know you've got your guitar turned up, the channel pops. When you've got your guitar turned down, the channel does not pop. So right now my guitar is turned up. Can't hear it there, but when I go from channel 2 to channel 3, that didn't do it that time. So maybe it's sporadic. I'm not sure. But I've heard it pop a couple times going in between. You hear just this little pop when you switch channels. To me, that's not a huge deal. I don't really care. In a live setting, is there somebody in the crowd that goes, "Oh, dude, that guy's amp just popped when he changed the channel. Oh my god!" Like, nobody's going to be doing that, so it doesn't matter. But channel 3, anyway, is a beast of a channel. I have it in vintage because for me the vintage setting is plenty of gain. I can do anything I want with this. I can do full on metal or whatever. And my gain knob is at the 5 position, so I got tons more gain to go on tap here, but so you get tons of gain, and I'm at halfway. So if I give it even more, it gets pretty rowdy. It's got tons of gain, and I'm on the vintage setting, which is the middle level gain, you know? I like to gain a little lower, make me work a little harder, makes me play better. tons of gain. So if I switch to modern, it's even more gain, which is like, to me, it's a little bit of overkill. But if you're that dude that likes that gain to be like retarded, I'm sorry, ridiculously a lot, it's a massive amount of gain. Again, the gain is only on 6, maybe 7 right here. If we give it all it's got, it's a lot of gain. Too much gain for my liking. Go back to vintage, put my gain back around here, and I'm happy. That's a really good tone for me. Awesome head. Highly recommend it. It's actually pretty quiet. But then again, I'm not at very high volume right now, so when I bring it to the rehearsal spot and really crank it up, I'll know for sure. The other thing I forgot to mention so far is there's a Vari-Power knob right here where you can change the wattage that it's actually outputting from 100 watts, which is way up here, all the way down to, they say 1 watt down here, so you can get really awesome bedroom levels. I liked it right about here for the level of volume that I'm at. And what that Vari-Power does is it kind of acts as an attenuator. So you get full tube power when you turn it down to where it is now. You're still, those tubes are getting hit hard, but you're able to get that crazy gain that the tubes are going to give you at a lower volume. If you crank the Vari-Power up to the 100 watt setting, and I'm still at a low volume here, I don't know how low, but you still get a pretty decent gain. Actually, a really awesome gain. So that's supposed to be the 100 watt setting, and of course my master is way down. I'm only on maybe 1.5 or 2. My volume on each channel is at 5, right? So then your master controls the volume, the overall volume of the entire head. But it sounds awesome in all the settings. Now what's really weird is as I turn that down, the amp gets louder. And the reason the amp's getting louder is because I'm not changing my low volume setting, but I'm boosting how much signal's going into that tube. So as you turn that down, that tube is getting a hotter signal and outputting it to the speakers. So it's kind of weird. When you turn that down to a lower wattage, your amp volume actually will raise because you're making the tubes work a little hotter. So it's a really cool thing that happens. So now I'm getting a really good saturation and a sag from those tubes. And I don't know if you can hear that, but when I have my guitar turned up and it's just sitting, resting with no play, you can hear it with the hum. But if I turn the volume off on my guitar, it's absolutely dead silent. I've never had a head where you don't get that high gain hiss. I know I'm at a low volume, but even at low volumes with my previous head that I still have, which is my Fender Machete, you can hear a shh like a shush sound coming out of the speakers because of the amount of gain that's being pushed through it. But I have to say, overall, I am very impressed with this head. The gain signal in it is incredible, and it's very, very dynamic. Oh, I almost forgot. In channel 1, go back to the clean channel, there's a switch. I'm in clean mode. There's a drive mode for this channel that gives you another gain stage. So if you wanted to have 3 channels of some sort of gain, right? Now there's some gain on there. Right? Versus the clean. Turn the gain up a little bit. See how that sounds? I turn it all the way up. So here's all the gain you can get with the drive setting on the clean channel. It's a pretty good level of gain. That's pretty good. Next to channel 2. Back to 1. And of course I got my bass turned up on this a lot, and you can hear the difference. My presence is a little backed up too, so it's not as crisp sounding as channel 2 was. And I do that because I like to smooth out my clean channel. If I turn the presence up on there, it's a little too glassy for me and it cuts a little too harsh. So I like to turn the presence down to control that a little bit. But this amp, again, I can't say it enough. This amp is awesome. I'm very happy with it. I will certainly be keeping this. I have nothing to say about its reliability. I've literally had this amp in my house now for maybe an hour, hour and a half. Just enough time for me to set it up, let the tubes warm up, play for about 10 minutes, and then turn the cameras on for you guys to see what I have. It's pretty cool. I really dig it. If it should disappoint me down the road, I will post a video about it. But for now, this thing is totally a keeper. And it's a pretty awesome rig right here. Two 212 cabs and this head, which was $699. The cabs were $229 a piece. So it's about $1,100, and I get a pretty awesome rig. It sounds really amazing. I can't wait to try it with my band all cranked up. And I'll let you know if there's anything mind-blowing, good or bad, when I put it in a loud setting. But for now, that's the Bugera Trirec Infinium, and I like it. I hope you liked it. Peace out.